The next session, we have homeowners' rights and issues, and Johnny Lowry and Sarah Tackett from our foreclosure unit are going to, if you want to step up and do that. I think the thing that we've learned in foreclosure, Hazel alluded to this earlier, that was actually Hurricane Floyd that alerted us to a lot of the things and the scams that were being run by the creditors and the banks on foreclosures. And what we've noted in this is there's language in the documents, there's language in the foreclosure documents, there's language in the insurance documents, and then there's what you can negotiate. So don't let the language be a bar to your negotiating on behalf of our clients. So with that, I'll turn it over to Johnny, and Sarah and Hazel is going to join them.
Good morning. My name is Johnny Larry, and I am the project manager for the mortgage foreclosure project and also the manager for our consumer practice group. And I took over those responsibilities from our now retired Hazel Mack. I just want to take a moment to speak to the private bar folks. When Hurricane Floyd occurred, I was in private practice, and I was working with nonprofit housing organizations. And at that time, we were trying to figure out how to deal with Hurricane Floyd. Somehow, and I don't recall the details, I ran into Hazel and George and was co-opted in a good way into this process of trying to figure out how to keep people in their homes in the context of Hurricane Floyd. And what I can say from that experience as a member of the private bar is that we knew a little, we didn't know everything, and so therefore we didn't know enough. But what we did understand was that we had to advocate somehow, some way. And because what was in front of us was almost insurmountable, we had to collaborate with governmental agencies, with quasi-governmental agencies, with our nonprofit partners. And so we did that. And I will tell you, at the time, what I remember probably more than anything else is going to the town of Princeville and driving down a street that we couldn't get down because there was a house sitting in the middle of the street. It had been removed literally from its foundation, and it was placed in the middle of the street. And I thought to myself, this is not my circumstance, but clearly it is somebody's circumstance. Some homeowner's home is sitting in the middle of the street. And I understood then that it was okay not to know how to do it all. It was enough to want to do it. And I would say that fast forward to today, that because of those efforts that Hazel and I engaged in, and at the time she was in the Wilson office serving, I believe, at least 6 counties that had been devastated by Hurricane Floyd, that we jumped in and we said we're going to grow our wings on the way down, and that's exactly what we did. And I can say that we have that mortgage foreclosure unit, which is still alive and well because of those efforts. The efforts of someone who was in legal aid, the efforts of George, who at the time was trying to pull down whatever money he could pull down to get this work moving for legal aid, and because somebody in the private bar, namely me, decided to step into that process. So we have our mortgage foreclosure unit to the extent that you agree to take on foreclosure cases for clients who are living in the context of Hurricane Matthew. You are certainly welcome to draw on our technical expertise. It's been some 16, almost 17 years now, and so we've been going strong. I come from a unit where we are accustomed to dominating the entire day of talking about nothing other than foreclosure. George said we had 30 minutes. I couldn't figure out how someone like me who likes to talk was going to get it down to 30 minutes. But again, I went back and I drew on Hurricane Floyd. And I thought about one client who had come into the Goldsboro office, and he had one piece of paper. And it was the front page of his deed of trust. And he said, they're trying to take my home. And that was all he had. But it was enough to get us started. And I will say this, our clients coming into our offices, whether legal aid, private practice, whatever it may be, but coming into the office without papers is, as one attorney said to me, is like going to the dentist without your teeth. And so we've got to figure out how to help our clients get their teeth. I think the most important part of the work in terms of the initial phase of advocacy is making sure that clients are able to get that paperwork. It is absolutely critical. So I'm just going to add this one piece, and then I'll turn the floor over to Sarah Tackett. There are ways in which we can help our clients get that paperwork, that deed of trust, the loan paperwork, loan account history. They're going to come in. They're not going to have this paperwork. And so we have access to get that paperwork through the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, which is found at 12 U.S.C. 2601 and the following. We have the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, which has issued policies and rules that allow for us to make special requests to mortgage servicers regarding our clients' loan account histories. And we have the state non-judicial foreclosure statute, which is found in Chapter 45 of the North Carolina General Statutes. And so we have those three tools at least. And so if your clients come in and they don't have the paperwork, do not be turned off by that. If you cannot figure out how to get the ball rolling, if you want to be in the game of helping that client stay in the home and work through that disaster relief piece, then you are free to reach out to us and we will help you do that. But I want you to understand that we do have policies and regs issued by the federal government. We have statutes issued by the federal government, and we have statutes issued by this state, which afford us that opportunity to help our clients get their teeth. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Tackett, and she's going to talk about not every issue that has come up in the context of Hurricane Floyd, but at least some of those issues that are going to be key to us being able to represent our clients in the context of Hurricane Matthew.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Tackett. Like Johnny said, I work with legal aid in the mortgage foreclosure unit. I've been there about 4.5 years. This presentation, I'm going to skip through a lot of it because the first panel covered a majority of it with the last minuteness. I wasn't sure how much of each topic would be covered. So this PowerPoint will be online at the end of the day, but it just kind of goes through some of the background about the Stafford Act, which is the basic federal statutes that authorize FEMA to act in and provide disaster services, including specifically disaster legal services, which is why you're all here today. This is just on the FEMA website about specifically Hurricane Matthew. And I'm going to skip to some of the, okay, so I kind of just prepared a Q&A type of thing based on, in the material that I was reading, what were the most common issues that came up in with respect to homeowners. So I think the most common question that was asked was, does the applicant or the homeowner have to keep paying their mortgage even if their home is destroyed or completely condemned after the disaster? The answer is yes. Regardless, especially here in North Carolina, if the homeowner is not paying their mortgage, they are subject to potentially foreclosure. The majority of federally insured mortgage lenders do have special programs, especially with respect to disaster relief, but a few of those include, and you may have heard this just generally with foreclosures, but forbearances, that would be where a homeowner is able to pay a reduced payment for a set number of months, which allows them to obviously put the extra money towards other issues or costs that they may have resulting from the disaster. One of the biggest issues that we run into on our team with applicants or homeowners who have gotten a forbearance is that they don't realize in many cases at the end of the forbearance period, the lender will require the amount that they had not been paying to be paid in one lump sum right at the end, which could equal, thousands of dollars. And for the majority of our clients, that's just not financially feasible. So it's a temporary benefit, but in the long term, if the homeowner isn't careful, it could cause them to fall even further behind. Another option is a modification. There's a number of different tools that the loan servicers can use to modify the loan for the homeowner, including, reducing the interest rate, extending a loan term, and then capitalizing arrears, however many months they've missed. A lot of the lenders will tell you that what they're allowed to do is based on investor regulations. Sometimes that may be true, but if you push them, especially if they are a HAMP or the Federal Homeowner Affordable Modification Program participant, then they'll find a way to help the homeowner. The next question's tied to it. If a homeowner has suffered through the disaster and then lost their job as a result, can FEMA pay their mortgage? No. And I think one of the next panels will talk about what types of unemployment assistance might be available through FEMA, but FEMA cannot directly pay the homeowner's mortgage for them. Another thing that is, and we're seeing right now with a lot of our cases, is that HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department of the federal government, will issue what's called a foreclosure moratorium after a disaster has occurred, and it will last approximately 90 days, and it can be extended if necessary. But essentially, it tells any federally insured mortgage lender that they have to pause all foreclosure proceedings, whether they are already in the foreclosure process with that homeowner or are wanting to initiate it as a result of the homeowner not making payments after the disaster. And that will allow the homeowner to at least have some breathing room and time to get their finances together and explore their options and perhaps come to us. Same thing with respect to homeowners association dues. The homeowner does need to keep making those payments, even if they don't like the way that the homeowners association is making the repairs, or if the homeowners association isn't making repairs to common areas fast enough. There may be other legal rights that the homeowners have in pursuing these issues, but to stop paying their dues could also result in foreclosure. If a recipient or a homeowner believes that, then this is with respect specifically to mobile homes, if they specifically believe that the cost to repair a mobile home will exceed its value, so in this case, the homeowner would have been approved for FEMA benefits and given a specific amount that FEMA would disperse to them, and if the homeowner believes that to make the repairs essentially would cost more than the value of the mobile home, which is quite common since they do depreciate in value fairly quickly, the homeowner, it's a good idea for the homeowner to advocate for the total destruction of the mobile home, because in those cases they may be entitled to cash awards of a larger amount if the mobile home is actually completely destroyed or condemned. And the homeowner can talk with their local or city inspectors, have them come out, make those additional assessments if they need to, and then appeal their the FEMA decision. With respect to rent-to-own agreements, these are contracts where it's a quasi-rental / mortgage ownership contract that we see and that we hate, but essentially the homeowner is considered or treated like a tenant for the time that they are living in the property, and during the contract, when they go to purchase the home, they're making payments that are going towards the mortgage, but they're not earning any equity or entitled to any homeowner, otherwise homeowner rights. So in these cases, we often see homeowners who, miss one payment or miss two payments, and the seller has the right to terminate the contract and essentially move forward with evicting the homeowner. If a disaster survivor applies for FEMA and they are under a rent-to-own agreement, it is likely that FEMA would classify them as a tenant, and in those cases, tenants are entitled to less benefits than a homeowner would be. For instance, tenants can get rental assistance and temporary housing right after the disaster, but they're not entitled to money for the repairs or replacements of the actual mobile home. So in those cases, you would want to encourage the applicant to appeal the FEMA decision and request that FEMA reclassify them as a homeowner rather than a tenant. They may be entitled to more money that way. With respect to home repair fraud, often, our clients are often the victims of fraud in general, but with respect to post-disaster situations, a lot of, and I think one of the other panels mentioned this, but a lot of what we call fly-by-night contractors will show up at homeowners' doors, make door-to-door solicitations, and essentially try to get individuals to agree to outrageous contracts, and in those cases, the homeowner often ends up in worse situations. They don't get things in writing, and they don't understand the terms of the contract. These individuals should consult with or reach out to the Attorney General's office, the DOJ, see if there are any complaints against these type of the contractor that has solicited them, ask for references, ask them if they have insurance policies that may prevent future issues for that homeowner. And then just generally other types of schemes that we see or that the homeowners should be aware of. Debt consolidation companies, a lot of times after disasters, individuals are struggling to make payments, especially on credit cards or medical bills, and they'll be the target of debt consolidation companies offering to consolidate all of their debt. Oftentimes, that comes with excessively high interest rates, hidden fees. things of that nature. So that's something that your potential client should look out for. Also, foreclosure rescue scams. We've had a couple cases, not related to disasters, but where a homeowner is struggling to make their payments and they're approached by either an individual or a company offering to catch up their mortgage payments, their taxes, HOA dues, in exchange for the homeowner deeding the property to the company or the individual in exchange for potentially leasing the property back. The homeowner thinks it's a great deal, and they don't realize that they're not going to be able to pay. The contract will often include a term where the homeowner has to pay back that money within 12 to 16 months at an excessively high interest rate, and our clients are hopeful but oftentimes not able to actually pay off the debts, and they end up losing their home for $1,200 in HOA dues. So that I have a lot more, but I will cut it. I feel like I'm at 30 minutes. Hazel, did you want to?
I think I don't really have a whole lot of structured material, and I don't want to just fill time. So it looks like you've gotten us back on, almost back on track in terms of our time period. I would like to say, again, in reference to outside the box, we can't, a lot of times with our clients, with legal aid, they're not going to be, they bring other issues. They're not literate. They don't understand. You've got to come up with and think about ways to address some of these issues, even when it seems like we're locked into the contract. And I was thinking when Sarah was talking about these scam artists that we run into a whole lot. If those guys are in the state of North Carolina or they do business in this state, please don't hesitate. The Attorney General's office is a good resource. They can sometimes send a letter and get that money back. And we often seek to get the money back when it seems like, well, they don't have a right to, because the contract does give you the right, but we push through that anyway, because if your client is not literate, did they understand the contract when they entered it? You have to think about all the other possibilities and ways where you can make a headache for these people. I do not hesitate to say, sometimes you just have to muck up the system. You just got to figure out a way to put something in there to stop the wheels from running. And these big guys out here, including the mortgage companies and everybody else, they depend on the process just running along. That's how they make their money. So what do? I told my whole team statewide, let's figure out a way to make this very uncomfortable. Let's figure out a way where the system won't run. Let's be the gadfly. Get my client his money. Now, you can go on to somebody else, but it's not going to be easy for you to do this. I'm going to make your life hell. That's my intent. That's what I think about at night when I lay down. I get up in the morning and figure out how to make your life hell, and that's what I'm going to do. And so that's how you got to approach this work. That's exactly how you got to do it, because the system is rigged for the people who have. I don't have any problems with that. If you got qualms with that, I'm sorry. I've been in this thing for 40 years. It doesn't work for the poor. It doesn't work for the people who do not have. So if you're going to make a change or do something different, you have got to make it hell for the people who have, and that's just how it works. And most of the time, they don't want to be bothered with you. They'll figure out a way to get rid of you. They'll figure out a way to settle, and that's what I want. I want my client, this little guy that's in front of me today, I want his money back. I want him to keep his house, and we can figure out how to make that happen. That's the whole approach you got to have.
Well, what do you think about that? All right.
That's it.
Well, and so the message is be bold, be creative. Our clients are coming to us. They're not going to have the law or the facts. That's the starting point. And people out east have very little to begin with, and this has worsened their condition. They're going to come to you. They're not going to have their documents. Again, they're not going to have the law, they're not going to have the facts. That's just the beginning for us. Welcome to our world. And as what Hazel said, we will work together on all of these things. This is a learning process for all of us. Every FEMA disaster is new. It's a rebirth, and that's where we're at.